Peter to come on. We've had a few technical difficulties this morning. I've also got Phil Green from Swivel on the phone with us. So Phil, are you with us now?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. We're just waiting for Peter. Good morning.
Okay, so if everyone can hear, Phil is the channel manager from Swivel. Obviously, I'm the product manager from E92. We're sole disty of Swivel, and this morning we're going to have a presentation presented by Peter, who is the pre-sales engineer at Swivel, head of pre-sales, I believe, and he will be running through the presentation this morning. So in a moment we're going to hand over to Peter when he gets his audio up and running, and then we'll be able to start.
My audio is now up and running. Good morning, everybody.
Oh, excellent, Peter. Nice one.
Good morning, Peter. Are we okay to hand over the reins to you now?
Yeah, Phil, have you done your piece?
I haven't yet, no. So if you want to flick to the next slide, I'll do just that.
Excellent. Off to you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name's Phil Green. I'm the Regional Director for the UK and Ireland for Swivel Secure. And today, hopefully, we'll be able to put in front of you on two and multi-factor authentication some of the differences as far as Swivel Secure are concerned. Once again, thanks for attending. I'd like to take the opportunity, if we can have some communication afterwards, to see if the relevant interested parties would like to agree any kind of meeting excuse me, in the next week or two. So we're very keen to do this and engage with new partners and old, of course. So so just really a quick slide here about Swivel Secure. Yeah, we're a world-leading authentication solutions provider on 2FA and multi-factor also, and Peter is going to be going into some of the key areas there, particularly in adaptive authentication. Our HQ is here, and the US. Here it's in an office we have in Wetherby in Yorkshire. We've got quite a bit of history, so dating back to 2000, and in 2001 we became a member of the MAR group. Our technology is patented, and we've launched the majority of some sort of early single channel products in 2003, and just really so that you can see how global we are. We've got a multi-language technical support. We've got, I think, somewhere near 1,000 deployments over those 46 countries, and local presence globally, whether that's North and South America, right across Europe, UK. So yeah, we're a truly international organisation. And with that, I'll hand over to Peter Draper, who heads up our solutions engineering, and Peter's going to take you through products and some of our technology and differentiators. So over to you, Peter.
Excellent. Thanks, Phil. Good morning, everybody. Let's talk about security, because this is what this is about. So the security landscape has changed. It's changed significantly, and the reason it's changed is because it is now a huge business for companies to be stealing and selling credentials. It used to be stealing and selling credit card details. That's still part of the business, but it's now focusing more and more on user credentials, because there is significant value in being able to get into systems and be able to understand what's happening with people, whether that be to actually steal data from that organization, or whether that be to actually work out additional credentials, additional information that is available, and it's happening all the time. So some of the examples that we have here are just in this last 12 months, but actually over the last 3 years, there's been somewhere in the region of nearly 4 billion credentials that have been stolen. So why should I worry about those credentials that have been stolen? Well, we'll talk about that in a little while. But if we look at people's online presence, the majority of people have got a number of accounts, and hands up those that actually use different passwords, complex passwords for each of those accounts. And anybody that did put their hand up on the webinar, please email me and add me to that, because I've been doing a bit of a laugh today. So what happens when the data breaches happen and the credentials are made available? Well, actually they're sold, and they're sold to lots of different people with lots of different ideas in place. And the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go and test that the stuff they bought actually works. So they're going to script and blast these credentials out at anywhere they possibly can. There's been some recent stuff going on, not specifically to do with credentials, but to do with MongoDB and Elasticsearch and other databases being hacked in recent times, and ransomware things going on. But that people are selling potentially susceptible systems, so they're selling the details for them. So they just script this and off it goes, and it'll go and find out where it works. If it works, great. That's why organizations should be worried, because if your users have similar credentials, or some could actually be using the same credentials, the same passwords for their online accounts for accessing VPNs, customer portals, web-based systems, cloud-based systems, then that means that those credentials could, if they're stolen from somewhere, could actually be reused and could be reused against your organization, which is a huge, huge risk. If we look at the number of attacks that have actually been done with stolen user credentials, it's in the range of 60% of the attacks that have been identified have used stolen credentials. That's a massive 60%. So you could actually get rid of reusable credentials, so credentials that could be reused, that have usernames and passwords are maintained for a significant period of time, then you're reducing the risk factor for the challenge that you've got, which is you have to open your network. So opening your network is the only way to provide access, but you have to secure that access and make sure that the people that are getting in are only the people that can get in, that should be getting in. And if those credentials have been stolen from somewhere else and reused, that's a problem for you. So we talk about providing access but making it secure as well. So we want to do what we call frictionless secure access, which is making it easy for the right people to get into the systems that they should be getting into, and making it impossible, or as impossible as we possibly can, for the users that shouldn't be getting in to get in. So we have a product, a very comprehensive product. It's called Auth Control Sentry. So Auth Control Sentry is our multi-factor authentication system. So we have the user accessing services, whether that be VPNs or cloud services on the desktop, or even additional web services. Auth Control Sentry should be the gatekeeper for that. So whether that be radius requests from VPN devices, whether that be SAML requests from cloud-based services or internal apps, that's what we should be working with. So Auth Control Sentry is the gatekeeper. We then have our adaptive authentication, which, based on a set of rules and policies, and I'll talk you through some of those in a minute, based on a set of rules and policies, decides what of the multiple authentication factors that we have available are actually used for a particular user at a particular time trying to access a particular system. So talking about the authentication options, we have the usual things that people are used to. So mobile app push, we've got mobile app acting as a one-time code, and we, again, the frictionless access, we're trying to make this as simple as we possibly can. You're accessing, let's say, your VPN, you'll get a push message on your phone that says, you want to continue, yes or no? How easy can that be? It makes it as simple as possible for the user. But then you're going to get times where you actually don't have a mobile signal, so you can't get your push message. So we have the phone acting as a token, and we have a number of one-time codes on there that are synchronized with Auth Control Sentry. So you input your one-time code, away you go, you've gained access. We have standard SMS. so the ability to receive your one-time code via SMS. We can even add, we've got a protocol that we have patented called PinSafe that allows us to add a PIN on top of this, so we can PIN protect the SMSs, just in case somebody is really concerned about phones being stolen and maybe not having a code on them if it's not a corporate device. We have the standard tokens, OAuth tokens. We can also work with other OAuth tokens as long as we can get the seed and key, and we're away being able to migrate people using different tokens. Now, here are some of the uniques from our perspective. We call these image-based authentications, and we have two options for that at the moment. One of them is called Turing, and one of them is called PinPad. So here's how Turing would work. So you have your username and password. The one-time code is derived from your PIN code that you are given. Let's say your PIN is 1234, as an example. Your one-time code is in this bottom box down here. Is this box changes, and we can configure whether that's alphanumeric, numeric only, how it's viewed, how obfuscated it is, and your one-time code is taken from your PIN code, so 1234 in this case, makes your one-time code 5721. Pretty simple. And that changes every time. And this can be embedded into applications. There's a number of different ways of doing that. Some people struggle with that. Some people struggle with, I've got a PIN code and I'm using it to define these numbers. So we actually developed PinPad. PinPad does exactly the same thing, but from a user's perspective, it's just like putting your PIN code in, like if you go to the cash machine, the ATM. You put a PIN code in and off you go. Behind these numbers, which are where your PIN is, another set of numbers are there that actually make up the one-time code, and that's changed every time that is delivered, and that's delivered from the Swivel appliance. So in terms of adaptive authentication, what do we mean by adaptive authentication? Well, actually, it's about securing users' identities, but not just that user. Talking about the user, how they're connecting, which device they're connecting over. There's a number of different things there that you might want to consider and decide from that criteria what is secure enough for you as an organization. And this has now become much more important with the extension of the perimeter, so the standard perimeter security, which is still critical as part of your security onion skin effectively, but your perimeter has now been extended because most customers are deploying cloud services of some fashion. And how do you control access to those cloud services rather than just allowing people to use their usernames and passwords? And if you see from the second slide, somebody in Dropbox reusing their credentials, not changing them often enough, etc., caused a huge chunk of Dropbox credentials to be stolen. So the cloud piece is a really important piece now, and ensuring that you actually have the ability to secure your cloud services along with your remote access, whether that be VPN or VDI, whichever way that goes, along with your internal applications, along with your internal security, is now critical to any solution that you're going to put in to do your multi-factor authentication. So, one of the ways that we can do this quite easily and going back to the frictionless secure access is with something that we call our unified portal. So being able to provide your users with a single location to go to, and again, this is fed from the Swivel appliance, we configure the unified portal to provide access for the services for your users. So let's say you've got, in this case, Office 365, Salesforce, you've got Sonic or VPN, you've got Cisco ISAs, you might have a couple of other services as well. They can be configured to go from this single portal, so anything that somebody needs to access, they get from here. And they click on a link, and it's going to decide based on the authentication methods that we've chosen, based on what's been provisioned for that particular user, and based on our policy set, it's going to say, okay, I'm going to log you in. In this case, I'm going to log into Salesforce, and we're going to use PinPad, as we talked about before. So you're going to put your PIN in, off you go. Let's say you come back to the portal, and you want to go to Office 365, well, actually, you can click on the Office 365 link, and if your rules are the same for Salesforce and Office 365, based on your risk profile, and that's the joy of this, each customer can determine their own risk profile for their applications. If your rules are the same, actually, we'll just do single sign-on for you. So it's all about giving that flexibility to be able to provide frictionless access to multiple services, but keeping it secure. So, explanation of how this works. Here's Jane. Jane's very happy. She must work for a really good company. She normally works in the office, and she's got access to Salesforce, SAP, and Office 365. So she accesses those services. There's two things here. One, she's accessing those services direct in this particular case. So she's going to Salesforce.com. Salesforce.com will identify the fact that actually Jane works for Swivel, and she needs to come back to Swivel's portal to determine her authentication method and to log her into the system. So she's accessing it from within the office. So the rules say if it's Jane, she's accessing it from in the office, then we're quite happy that her username and password is going to be secure enough for us. But Jane then heads home. She takes her laptop with her. It's a company laptop. So again, she tries this time, but this time she's going to Office 365, communicates to the portal again. So Jane works for Swivel. We need to work with the portal to authenticate her. It's a company laptop, logged in before from home. We know where our home address is. The rules say that username and password and PIN pad is secure enough for that. Jane now heads off to a customer site, and this time she's dropped into McDonald's. She fancies a coffee in the morning. She's going to check her email in Salesforce. So she logs in. It's an unknown location. She's still using her company laptop. So our rules say, based on the risk profile, using a password and a 2FA challenge, using push is secure enough. So again, it's about deciding the risk profile of who you are, where you are, what you're accessing through, which device you are, etc., etc. So we now have another guy. This is Peter. Peter's going away on holiday. He's at the airport. He says to his wife, "I'm not going to take my laptop on holiday." But actually, what he's going to do is going to use his tablet to get into everything. So he tries to access Salesforce. Salesforce again communicates to the portal. Peter is in an unknown location, using an unknown device. So our rules say username and password, 2FA, using SMS is secure enough. He has taken his phone with him, by the way. 10 minutes later, he goes back in and he accesses Office 365. It's on the same device and location. The rules say we know where he is and provide single sign-on for him. Again, that's the risk profile for that particular user, for that particular company. Personally, I wouldn't have done a single sign-on at that point, but that's an option that you can choose. So Peter has now jumped on the plane. He's off. He's gone to wherever he's going. It looks to be a nice place because he's in a pool and it's sunny. So he's accessing again on his friend's tablet. So talks to the portal. The portal determines he's in an unknown location, an unknown device, and in a different country. So we want to do a strong challenge using SMS. So SMS auth is secure enough. 10 minutes later, he accesses Office 365, so he's effectively doing exactly what he did at the airport. But this time, because he's in a different country, we've disabled single sign-on, so we force him to authenticate again using SMS. Again, risk profile. It's all about determining that risk and building the policy that allows you to decide how your users are going to gain access, still giving them the easiest access possible. So our goal is not to say no, but actually be able to assign that risk profile we're accessing and be able to allow the users to gain access as quickly as they can, as easily as they can, but keeping it secure. So in terms of the management and the integration of the Swivel appliance, 90% of our deployments are done with AD integration. So there are a number of different groups that are defined within Active Directory. Users are put into those groups, and any user that's in that group then becomes controlled by Swivel to determine the authentication methods. And there's a number of different options in terms of mobile client, whether they've got access to help desk elements, whether they're allowed to do one touch, etc., etc. So group membership determines whether or not it's controlled by Swivel. let's say you have a customer using an older two-factor authentication mechanism that is out of support, that they want to replace, or that is expensive. We can actually work alongside that, and you can migrate users one by one, or groups by groups, or numbers by numbers, whichever way you want to come across to Swivel. And the ones that are not controlled by Swivel will just radius proxy it through to the existing mechanism. So there's a migration capability there that is quite easy to do. There's a user portal, so for provisioning using QR codes, for resetting pins, and for token resyncs, should your tokens get out of sync, and you need to do that. And in terms of deployment, we have two deployment methods. So we have a cloud instance. This is another unique in terms of, from Swivel Secure's perspective, our cloud instance is not a shared platform. We provide a dedicated instance inside Amazon AWS, region-specific hosting. It is for one customer only, so it's not on a shared platform. So that cloud instance is dedicated. We do all the managed service upgrades, etc., etc. If you need to sync with AD inside your organization, you obviously don't want a cloud system punching a hole through your firewall to come into you. So we have an AD agent that sits inside your organization and makes a secure connection outbound to do that AD synchronization for us. So that's one mechanism. The other one is an on-premise, whether it be virtual or hardware appliance, VMware or Hyper-V. We have HA, active, or single instance. We can even do DR modes as well. So you can have multiple devices across multiple locations. And that's a standard way of doing it. And it's, again, it's inside your organization. It's your box. From a licensing perspective, if it's on-premise, it's a perpetual license. So you buy a license for the number of users. Another unique is you get all of the functionality of the Swivel device when you buy those licenses. There isn't 10 different modules to buy, all at different costs. All of the functionality of the Swivel device you get when you buy the platform. You can buy standard support, 8x5, 24x7, etc., etc. From a cloud perspective, the cloud is a subscription model. So it's a price per user per month based on how many users you want to have. And again, you get all of the functionality of the platform. Final piece is technology integration, so being able to work directly with AD, with ODAP, Radius, lots of VPN solutions, load balancers, and pretty much any web service through the SAML protocol. That's it. So I'm going to open up whether or not there are any questions that are going to get flagged on the webinar itself, or whether we want to deal with those separately. We can do so.
Hi, Peter. Yeah, we do have a question from Chris Hayden.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to ask any questions, we can answer a few questions on the webinar, and then anything else you can take offline and email me, and then we can get the answers that way. But the question I've got from Chris is, what are your recommendations on managing the need to log in as user for support purposes?
So when you say a user for support purposes, are we talking about, actually that's, could we quantify that question in any way? Is there anything that we can do from that perspective?
Yeah, Chris, if you can just quantify that a little bit more, that would make it easier to answer for Peter.
If we're talking about support for an organization, or if you're talking about supporting the users that you have in your Swivel deployment. Yeah,
so that's what we need clarification on.
Okay. So there are two things that we can do from supporting the Swivel just while we're waiting for clarification. There is a help desk function inside the Swivel appliance. So we can give users access to what we call the help desk piece, and that allows you to be able to reset PIN codes, to be able to send email one-time codes to your users. So let's say one of your users phones up and says, I'm trying to get in, I can't get in. then you can actually do that through the help desk function and send them something through any of the mechanisms that you have. And if you're using the mobile app, inside the app itself, the app can be configured with an email address and a telephone number for your actual help desk support organization, so people can actually contact support from within the app itself. So they click on a button to make a call, or they click on a button to send an email, and it sends it to wherever you want that support piece to go to.
Okay, I think that should answer the question as one of those methods. Oh, I've just had a further question from Chris, but that's a different issue. That's a different question. So the question from Tim Matthews, which was next, was, what about using RDS and ADFS in Azure?
So RDS and ADFS are supported, definitely. So they can be integrated.
They can be integrated. Okay.
Yes.
That was a simple, quick question. So another question from Chris, which says, in effect, being able to impersonate a user, for example, needing to log in as relevant user profile. A typical issue with 2FA as admin, you don't have the token, etc.
Ah, so you're talking about if you're supporting a user and you want to log in as them. Okay, that's an interesting question. I'd like to come back on that one, but there's a number of different ways that you can do that if you're working with the customer. You obviously can't do it if you don't have the token for that particular customer themselves. Let me take that one offline and come back. Is it possible to maybe get a conversation going on that so I can understand some more on that later?
Yeah, of course. What we'll do is we'll contact Chris.
Yeah.
And I'll copy you into that so that you can get the relevant questions answered a bit more thoroughly. Does anyone else have any more questions? I'm just seeing if anyone else has any more questions. We don't have any more questions at the moment.
Cool. So feel free, if there's something you wanted to discuss offline, feel free to get in touch with your E92 account managers, to get in touch with ourselves directly. You can do that as well, and we'll all work together to answer your questions and see whether or not there is some room for engagement moving forward.
Yeah. Chris just did respond saying, yes, I guess assuming you are on a trusted device in speech marks, you can define a 2FA bypass and accept UNP only.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there are ways of doing that without a doubt. So that probably needs to be drilled into in a little more detail.
Okay. Mark Manning's just come to us with a question, which says, I have considered 2FA for supporting users before. Could you set up a specific auth type which the user doesn't actually use with your support agent details?
You could, yes. There's a number of different ways of doing that.
Which the user doesn't actually use, it was in brackets, by the way.
Yeah. So again, I think that one needs to be drilled into in a little more detail. But we have a number of different mechanisms for helping us to work out what's going on. We can reset pins and do a number of different things. We can even one of the things that we can do is, let's say we were to use one of our image-based authentications, whether that be the Turing or the pin pad. From the help desk mechanism, you have the ability to go and see which is the image that's available. So right now, what image or what sessions are available, so you can actually reuse those as a test. But yeah, right. I'm more than happy to arrange a call with these guys to dig into that in a little more detail. And if that isn't something that is supported straight away out of the box, we've got lots of flexibility in terms of configuration options and things like that. So we can talk about how that would work.
Mark did actually come back again, just as you were talking, saying, so all users have 2FA going to the support agent if connecting from the support agent device.
Potentially, yes, depending on how you configure it.
Okay, so that would probably be a bit more in-depth question depending on on the scenario. Okay, so another question from Chris saying, okay, have you got our? Oh, sorry. Yes, Chris, we've got your contact details, so we will we'll put you in touch. That was just about the contact details. But anyone that signed up to the WebEx, your contact details are already logged, and because most of you signed up from an email that I sent out, I will certainly pass on your details to Peter, so you can have a more in-depth discussion if you need to. If anyone, if there are no more questions, we'll stop the WebEx. But if any of you have any further questions or you wanted to have a chat afterwards, you've got my contact details, so please by all means contact me and I will walk you through any further information and put you in touch with Peter or Phil, depending on the types of questions, and then we'll take it from there. Do you have anything to add, Phil?
No, I don't actually. I guess the only thing that I'd like to say, I guess there are people here that have engaged with Swivel in the past. I don't know how long ago that may have been, and also people for the first time that this communication has come, of course, from E92. So we're really keen to engage with you and explain where we're coming from at the moment and what we're planning for this year. So so if there are any interested partners out there in signing up with us, that would be great. So please get in contact with myself or Robin for that, and we'll follow that up with you.
Fantastic. Well, I think we can end things there. But if anyone does have any questions, please by all means get in touch with me, and I will either be able to answer or redirect your questions as and when. All right. Well, thanks for joining, everyone, and thank you, Peter, for the WebEx. It was very insightful, and we'll call it a day now.
Excellent. Have a good day.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.